When my wife and I got to know each other, she was the sweetest girl on earth. I had been crushing on her for a long time and couldn't muster the courage to speak to her for a while. When I finally did, Ava and I flowed so well and our conversations were heavenly. She was the kind of woman I wanted, but I was shy around women. My best friend, Joseph, knew how much I loved Ava and I wouldn't stop talking about her whenever we were together, so he encouraged me to keep being the sweet guy I was, and in no time, Ava would be mine. He was actually correct. As I began to spend more time with Ava, go on dates, or take her to the movies, our bond grew stronger, and when I finally asked her to be my girlfriend, she couldn't say no. When I met Ava, we worked in different companies, and I was doing well financially. My only weakness was talking to women, but after Ava became mine, I didn't have to worry about that anymore. We dated for 2 years, and I made sure she was the happiest woman on earth within those 2 years. I did all these things because I genuinely loved her, and seeing her made me happy. Also, before I proposed to Ava, she always told me that she didn't want the kind of public proposal where I have to invite her friends or throw a party. So I took note of that, and I asked her to join me on vacation, and within our 4-day vacation, I proposed to her, and she said yes. Immediately after we returned home, we began to make our wedding plans. We had a church wedding, and everything went blissfully. After our wedding, Joseph advised that we move into a bigger apartment, and being that he had been my childhood friend and best friend, I listened to him. Luckily for us, we could rent an apartment some house away from where he lived, so he just needed to walk for about 7 minutes before getting to my house, and this was just perfect for me. I didn't want a situation where I'd abandon my best friend because I was married, and when I discussed it with Ava, she agreed. After we moved into the new apartment, the bond between Joseph, Ava, and me grew stronger. He wasn't married yet, so this allowed him to stay out late at our place or spend time outside until we were all tired. Also, I loved that Ava was finally getting along with Joseph and not uptight with him like she used to be. About a year after our wedding, my company laid off a lot of staff, and fortunately for me, I found another job and the pay was even better. The only downside about my new job was that it required me to travel to other towns a lot, and I didn't have enough time to spend with Ava and Joseph like I used to, but I always tried to make up for my absence whenever I was around. And because Ava could not drive, I was forced to look for someone to drive her to work. We searched for a couple of people online, but Ava was uncomfortable with any of them, and in the end, I suggested Joseph, my best friend, since I trusted him and Ava thought it was great too. Honestly, I chose Joseph because he was reliable and I knew he would take good care of Ava. Because I believed he could look after Ava for me while I was not around, but little did I know, I was making a terrible mistake. One day, I returned home on a Saturday, and I was so hungry that I had to stop at Joseph's house to eat before getting home. So I called him before entering our town and he told me he was cooking. That was the main reason I dropped by his house first. I didn't want to go home yet because the last time I spoke to Ava, she told me she was shopping for groceries, so I calculated when she would get home to cook, and going to Joseph's house was the best option. While we were eating, I noticed that he kept typing on his phone, and I believed it must have been some new girl he was trying to get laid with, so I didn't even bother asking him about it. So immediately after we were done eating, Joseph tried to pack our plates while he still held onto his phone. His phone fell on the ground, and in my attempt to pick up his phone for him, I realized he had been chatting with Ava all along. She even sent him a half-naked picture of her in the bathroom, with a towel tied around her chest and her neatly waxed legs. I stared at the phone, and I could not utter a word. I didn't need a psychic to tell me Joseph was sleeping with Ava. I was so broken, and I left his house immediately. Ava was trying to cook when I got home and I confronted her about Joseph. At first, she denied it and even asked if I had hit my head, but when I told her that Joseph was HIV positive, she dropped the pan and turned in my direction. Ava asked me if I was messing with her, but I told her Joseph had been HIV positive for a very long time, and that's when she broke down and began to cry. She admitted she'd been with Joseph without protection the previous night, but I already knew. I just wanted her to say it. I yelled at her for putting our health at risk and for breaking my trust. Then I kicked her out of the house. We eventually did an HIV test, and we were both negative. But unfortunately for her, several weeks later, she tested positive for herpes. At that time, I was already processing our divorce papers, and shortly after that, we divorced. I could not believe that despite everything I had done for Joseph and Ava, they still chose to hurt me like that. So I got a restraining order for them and warned them never to come near me or my house. In the end, Ava and Joseph didn't last long. Joseph only wanted to pleasure himself, but Ava thought she could fool me and keep it a secret. Finally, she begged me and said it was Joseph who misled her, but I wasn't buying any of that. Ultimately, I was forced to leave the apartment because it was toxic to my mental health. This happened a long time ago, but I'm thankful I'm gradually healing from the heartbreak. Pop, I'm so sorry you had to go through all of this. It must have been tough to find out. It was tough to find out that the two people you trusted the most could do such a thing to you. I am also glad you did the right thing by getting rid of both of them because they could harm you even more. Thinking that she begged for your forgiveness after breaking your trust and hurting you that way is laughable. Now she knows that she cannot have her cake and eat it too. I commend you for prioritizing yourself and your mental health by leaving the apartment. I know it may be difficult for you to move on, but I'm sure you will. Give yourself time to heal properly. I am proud of you for making the right decisions, and thank you for sharing your story with us. Now, let's move on to the second story of the day. My wife and I were high school sweethearts. We were the cutest and hottest couple in school back then, but because she got involved with one of the popular boys that I did not like, we were forced to break up. By involved, I mean I caught her kissing the boy. After high school, I went to college the following year, and I never saw her again until years later. That night, I went out with one of my friends who was having a bachelor's party, and coincidentally, Nancy was there. At first, I didn't recognize her because it had been years, but when she walked over to my table and introduced herself, all the feelings I had for her in high school came rushing back. She had completed college and was currently working in the same town as me, so we decided to iron out any past issues and became friends again. I was hurt by what Nancy had done, but a part of me still wanted her back. We exchanged contacts that night and started talking more. From there, we began going out and dating again. While we were together, we became intimate and realized that we still had feelings for each other. I tried to hold back because I didn't want her to take me for granted, but when she confessed that she still wanted me, we made it official and started dating again. We dated for almost a year and then got married. Most of our high school friends were surprised that we got back together and they made sure to attend the wedding. It was a fun event, and the best part was seeing faces we hadn't seen in a long time. Nancy was pretty famous, and she was addicted to social media. She got paid to promote brands, use and talk about products, and more. In addition to her day job, she also made money online. Although she earned more than I did, I didn't have a problem with it. I still fulfilled my responsibilities as a husband by providing for our household, getting her whatever she wanted, and even buying her a car. We agreed not to have children in the first 2 years of our marriage, so we could make up for lost time and do the things we had talked about doing when we were teenagers. We believed we would get married, and we did. I was a very supportive husband, and Nancy even gave me access to her Facebook page to help her create content. I helped create content whenever she was busy, since content creation was easy for me. I never complained about her always being on her phone because I knew it was one of her means of earning. Whenever she was busy, I would help around the house cook, go grocery shopping, or if we were both tired of cooking, I would order takeouts or we would eat out. It's in my own way, I did everything I could to make her enjoy our marriage, feel comfortable, and still have the freedom to do the things she used to do before we got married. While I struggled to balance my work life and marriage to make Nancy happy, I never knew that my wife was having an affair with another influencer she met on Facebook until something happened. The funny thing was she had mentioned the guy a couple of times and the crazy number of followers he had, but I just thought she was following her fellow influencers. One day, I was at home on my day off when I got a call from a truck company that they were towing my car. As confused, I asked for the location and went there, only to realize that it was my wife's car. The company called me because the car was registered under my name. I was shocked to see her car there because her office was only a 30-minute drive from our house, but the location was an hour away. I didn't understand because she was supposed to be at work at that time. I looked around for a sign of a women's store or nail salon, but I didn't see any. She also didn't mention anything about going shopping before leaving the house that morning. While trying to talk to the truck company employees, I saw my wife coming from one corner with her hands wrapped around the influencer guy's waist. When she saw me, she gasped and was surprised to see her car being towed away. I was heartbroken because from the body language I saw, it was evident that the two of them had been intimate with each other. Without waiting for an explanation, I started recording them, but the guy kept saying, "Sir, this means nothing. We were just having fun, and she's all yours." He was embarrassed by the number of people turning their heads. One of anger and disappointment, I yelled at them and asked Nancy if she had fun with other men to become their influencer. She said nothing and began to cry. When her car was successfully towed away, I got into my car and drove off without her. I saw her fighting with the guy in the rearview mirror, but I already knew it was over between us. When I got home, I posted the video on her Facebook page because I had access to it and tagged the other influencer guy. I knew the post would be taken down, but before it was, many people had seen it and commented on it. She tried to beg me when she came home, but she found her things scattered by the door. I asked her to pack her things and leave, and she did. She obviously had a thing for famous guys, so she could go on and live the life she wanted. We divorced shortly after that. I blamed myself for being so stupid. I ignored the red flags and believed she must have changed. But Nancy would always be Nancy. The news of our divorce affected her business, and most of her clients closed their contracts with her. The influencer cut her off for ruining his career, but she deserved everything she got. I've moved on now, and I'll be careful enough not to ignore red flags again in the future. You were such a good husband, yet your ex-wife did not appreciate your efforts to make life comfortable for her. Not all men are like you, but she took what she had for granted. I'm happy you did not let her back into your life. She would have kept hurting you. It's almost unbelievable that she cheated on you in less than 1 year of marriage. I agree with you that she deserved everything that happened to her, and you've successfully gotten rid of a toxic spouse. I'm also sure you will not ignore red flags in the future again. I wish you all the best. Thank you all for taking the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, comment below with your thoughts on what happened. And take care.